Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Let's Talk Automotive. This is Season 5, Episode 3. We are on 59 episodes in total now, Pete.
That's quite incredible, actually.
Yeah,
I mean,
amazing.
long may it
In
continue.
tonight's show, we have the latest and breaking automotive news. Our guest is Werner Hutzenberg. He's just competed in some endurance racing. I'm looking forward to speaking to him. And our review tonight is on the Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross.
And then we're going to have game time again with Werner, and I'm expecting to get another hiring tonight. And we're going to have our next session or segment on how things work, where we talk about the cooling systems on cars and what to look out for and how to maintain it. And then, of course, we have our new favorite segment of the show, Meme of the Week.
All right, guys, let's go. This is Let's Talk Automotive. Right, Pete, so we had a nice, very busy weekend.
Yeah. We had a good week, and you had a good week.
Yeah, I had a very good week.
I mean, we inducted you almost into the Hall of Fame of training this week, so it was awesome to see you in action.
Man. Yeah, no, it was good fun. All right, I think let's just get going, and let's start with this week's news. All right, Peter, so brand new model being launched. So let's talk about the Hyundai Staria. You actually drove past this car a couple of weeks ago.
I know.
And you said to me, have you seen this new car? Have you seen this new car? And I said, no, I don't know what you're talking about. You actually said it looks like the A-Team's bus or something. What did you say?
Well, what I said was it looks like the A-Team's bus from 2050.
Yeah.
Because it is absolutely space age in its looks.
Yeah.
We've got some pictures of it, and I suppose the jury will be out if you have a look at the pictures. But the reality is that, I mean, you commented that you didn't necessarily like the look of it, but I can assure you, Fani, this looks sensational in the flesh.
It looks amazing. So I'm not 100% sure that, but you said, seeing it up, with your own eyes, it looks amazing. I can tell you something that I was impressed. The interior of this car,
yes.
You can actually, they say it's a 2-seater to an 11-seater, so you can customize this. Yeah, and there's reclining seats. Like it looks like Lazy Boys.
I mean, look at that interior as well.
Yeah,
it's just state of the art. The one thing we don't have is pricing on it.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine that this is going to be overly priced. But for me, this is the next generation of what MPV should look like.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Hopefully we get one for a review soon.
But I will say this much.
Yeah.
What closes or seals the deal for me on this
Yes.
is it's got Hyundai's legendary 2.2 litre diesel. And we've experienced that motor before. Yeah. It's absolutely
amazing.
Stunning. So,
it is amazing. All right, let's move on to some sales figures. And in October last month, we had an interesting month on the new car sales.
Yeah, I mean, we're living with this dichotomy of some manufacturers.
Fritz is actually going to play us a little video, and we can talk over this quickly.
Okay.
Right. So you carry on.
I mean, we've got this dichotomy of some of the manufacturers seemingly have stock, some don't. I've noticed in the figures that some manufacturers that didn't have a lot of stock last month seem to have got some through. So it makes for interesting numbers. I mean, let's just look at some of the individual manufacturers. So Toyota, being the juggernaut that they are, posted 9,700 units in a pandemic environment with allegedly low stock levels. Volkswagen was just a shade under 6,000. So those two normally carry on regardless.
I'm surprised with number 3, Pete.
Yeah, Nissan had a good month. Let's face it.
A very good month.
Hyundai had an awesome month. Suzuki, although they did less units than last month, they still broke their record for the number of deals or sales done at dealer level.
At retail level, yeah.
So the retail sector had an awesome month with Suzuki, Renault, awesome month, Kia, awesome month, Haval, fantastic.
Let's talk about the guys at the bottom of that list quickly.
So, Porsche, pretty poor month in respect of what they normally do. So 34 units. And Bentley,
Ferrari,
3, Ferrari 2, Lamborghini none. So my only real summary out of that is that there clearly weren't any tenders on offer this month.
Absolutely. Let's say how's it to everybody watching. Hey Murray, thank you very much for joining us. He says that Back to the Future bus.
Oh, absolutely. yeah.
Absolutely. Haval doing quite well. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Nadia's watching. The bus looks funky, she says.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us, guys. Please share. Hit the share button so that your friends can also join us. Okay, so that was the news. Not too much happening this week. At least we're getting some rain, which is cool. Yeah.
Just in time for load shedding.
Just in time for load shedding. All right, I think let's have a chat to Werner, our guest of the week. Werner Hartzenberg joining us tonight, and this oak is definitely a car guy, that's for sure. Thank you very much for joining us.
Old car guy. Classic car guy.
Classic car guy. So Werner, the reason why we got you in is that we were actually, Fritz, the behind-the-scenes guy, was involved with a race that you guys had this weekend, but we're going to get to that race. Yeah. First, we want to talk to you about yourself and about the history. You said that you're a classic car guy, so what does that mean?
Yeah, well, look, I've always been around the air-cooled Beetles, basically, and through my dad's, through him, with Porsches and the older Porsches, and specifically, I took a liking in it.
Yes.
My life has gone in many directions, but once I came back to South Africa in 2009, my dad suggested that we start, restoring cars. I started with my grandfather's 1959 Beetle, and then one thing led to another. We bought an old 911. We were going to sell it, but
kept it.
they're also so precious to us.
Yes.
They start talking to you. So in any case, but it's always just been passion, and it's always just been air-cooled and the early stuff, because to me it's all about the history. So through that, I've also, did research with all the old 9-hour races and the Porsches that raced, and I went to visit all the old Oomies that used to work on it and raced on it, the Lindsay Saker guys. It all comes with passion, basically. Yeah.
Okay. Amazing story.
Yeah, look, first of all, air-cooled. Yeah, you don't pick the easy ones, eh? So there must be massive challenges with those. But I noticed the 917 Porsche that raced Le Mans was an air-cooled vehicle. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, well,
for those maybe that's watching, maybe explore the air-cooled versus liquid-cooled quickly, so that the viewers at home understand what you're working on. So the air-cooled, obviously the older technology, or the older generation.
There's no radiator. There's no fluid pumping around the engine. It's
water,
just fins and the airflow over those fins.
Well, look, there's always improvement to be done, but we're talking about the Beetle that Ferdinand Porsche did back in 1938, I guess, was when Beetle started, and went through the Second World War, the Kübelwagens, everything else, and from there Porsche started in 1948 and built their own cars in Gemund, and then it moved to Germany and Stuttgart, closer to Bosch. That was the reason for it in Stuttgart. And the air-cooled is you cooling the oil down, and water-cooled is you've got water to cool the motor down. So for instance, on the car we raced this weekend, we ran pipes to the front with a cooler in the front. So we're still cooling it, but we're just cooling the oil,
That's exactly one question. Air-cooled vehicles with the engine at the back, it almost doesn't make sense. So how do you get the air to get to the back at the end, the engine's in the back? So how does that work?
Yeah, well, look, it's got vents and all that built in, but Porsche was quite stubborn, and they still are, making the 911's rear engine cars, but they've always embraced taking a difficult situation and making the best out of it. I mean, when new rules come in for emissions or whatever, they embrace it. When the electric stuff comes in, they embrace it. They really try and build the best they can, but they're so bloody stubborn that they stick with the rear end cars, which in reality shouldn't work that well. But I mean, especially the car I drove this weekend, you would be amazed how well it handled. Of course, it's not off the shelf anymore, but I mean, it's a rear end Beetle motor, Beetle setup. So
we can't wait to show you guys that. While we talk to the viewers, guys, if you have any questions for Werner or to Peter, but please don't ask me anything because I'm just here to actually just...
To look pretty.
Yeah, well, to look pretty. Somebody has to look pretty on the show. So Leandro's joined us. Thank you for joining us. And Simon, thank you very much, Simon, for joining us. So let's carry on with, I want to ask you a question. So if somebody wants to restore, do you specifically only work on Porsche and VW bikes, Beetles?
Yeah, look, for clients, it happens to be more Porsche because, I mean, there's so much that goes into it and we put so much love into it. I mean, it's the quickest it happens is 2 years on one project.
Wow.
It's just me and Petrus, I mean, Skosana, that helps me. We self-taught. I mean, we love what we do and we really focus on the little details. That's where we're different from the rest. Is we're not there to make money. We're there to do it right and all the love goes into it. I mean, there's no bolt or screw that I don't touch on a car. I don't leave it up to someone else. So there's no big team doing it. But that's just what we do because we like it. We've got our own projects that my dad would love to see done one day. But mainly I do the early Porsches, 73 and earlier, really early 356s.
Sure, that's amazing.
I'm so privileged. I'm doing a 1952 Cabriolet. That's 4 years into Porsche's existence.
That is insane.
And to me, I didn't even know a car like that exists in South Africa, but they found it in Durban. Rotten. Barry Ashmore is doing, the work on the body. It's over a year already. We're rebuilding a car there. I mean, that's
going to be amazing.
I mean, just talking about that car, you, out of the cars that you've done, have you got a favorite project that you've worked on?
Man, they all become like children. Do you have a favorite child?
I love that answer.
But really, I mean, they're all so special, and I'm so privileged. I mean, people are trusting me with something that are so special. I mean, the most valuable would be the 52 Cabriolet we're doing, but it doesn't mean it's more special than the next one. I'm doing a 66 911. Somebody from Natal sent me, 1965 911 up. That's one of the first 200 911s ever made. So to me, to work on something that's that unique, I'm on it.
It's insane, actually, if you think about it, because we've had previous guests that have worked on classic bikes and other classic cars, and it never ceases to amaze me how South Africa produces all these rare vehicles.
South Africans are so clever, and they're so good. The rest of the world does use us. You obviously know there's many guys out here that are world class. You hear names in Formula One.
Rory Burns.
You
Gordon Murray.
They're incredible. They're intelligent guys. So South Africa, they've got some clever boykies here.
That leads on to another question. You've obviously predominantly now dealt with local customers and restorations. Have you started having the door being knocked on for overseas customers?
I haven't yet. Look, I don't advertise. I'm too slow because it takes forever. So it'll never be a business. It's more a passion. So, and I'm happy the way it goes. Look, I can go bigger, but then I feel I'll lose a little bit of detail and attention to things. Look, I'm very fortunate and very lucky. My dad's support is everything. He's my hero that got me into it. Then I've got a friend, Werner Olke, who we'll talk about, I guess, once we get to the racing side of it. He's worked on VW Beetles since the age of 13. He comes he comes from Germany. He was trained by the factory in Cologne. He was qualified when he was 17. The factory wouldn't let him drive a car because he didn't have a license. But he was a VW qualified mechanic in Germany.
Cool.
Okay, so have you been all over the world? Where've the vehicle love taken you on travels?
Yeah, well, look, I have been most of the world. In 1999, there was the first African Beetle Marathon, and Werner Olke entered it, and then I said, I'll enter it with my girlfriend. So his goal was to win it. My goal was to come dead last because you get 25 days to do it, and I'm a student. So
Yes.
who wants to be home after a week? So I took all 25 days to finish, and unfortunately I wasn't last, I was second last. There were two crazy students at the time that went to Sun City first, but there I met this Norwegian friend, Espen, and he decided to stay in the country, bought an old Combi 1959 split bus, and one day we had some drinks. Must have had drinks for this one because he said his mom was inviting us for hot chocolate. So we decided to drive this Combi up to Norway. So we drove from South Africa to Norway 3.5 months. And
that's insane.
And after that, I ended in America coaching tennis. And then when I came back 2009, I got back into the car scene and started restoring our own stuff, and then some clients knocked on the door because of the research I'm doing. I guess my reputation for loving the cars was what got me into it, and I've always been chasing the history, South African history of air-cooled cars, especially the early 9 hours. That's what made this race so special for me.
Okay, let's transition into some racing. Because
sorry, before we do that, I just wanted to say that there was never a great idea that started with, let's have a glass of milk.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what we drank that evening, but it obviously worked because we ended up in Norway.
For hot chocolate. Bossy Staines joined us. Thank you, Bossy, for joining us. Hope that everything's going well at work. Okay, so let's transition into some racing, because you guys share tennis. Did you know that?
Yeah, I'm a huge tennis fan.
Tennis fan. So obviously,
when I grew up, I wanted to be a Wimbledon player.
Yeah, but we all have dreams.
and then obviously racing as well. You guys share the racing as well. So this race this weekend was obviously not your first time around the track. So racing is part of your background.
Yeah, not for that long. I've probably been racing for the last 8 years or so. In the beginning, I thought the car would never be right, or the car's not right yet. Then I had a friend, Clive Winterstein. He's a great advisor, actually, good friend, and he said, your car will never be right. You just need to go out. So my first race was in a 356 Porsche, which is...
Well, that sucks.
Everything sucks except the car, because it's
being sarcastic.
Yeah, but it was so but it's so bloody slow. But that's the fun. That's the fun, is you do it in something that they used to do it in, and you like trying to capture it. So 8 years ago I started doing pursuit racing. It's in a handicap system where the slowest car starts first, the fastest car in the back. And it all gets worked out time-wise, and anyone can win the race. You can go with the wheelbarrow and win the race, or you can go with the Ferrari and win the race. So, and I've been quite successful in that, and I enjoy it. The guys respect each other, and but endurance racing, I've really not had that much experience in it.
Was this the first endurance race?
Well, the first proper endurance race,
So when we talk endurance, we're talking 24 hours.
24 hours.
Yeah, well, look, an hour they call endurance racing, but to me... the car just gets warmed up basically around an hour. But a real endurance race, there's so little opportunity in South Africa to really do endurance race. That's why Mark Castell, the guy that set up this from Phoenix Events, he did an incredible job. We all wondered how it's going to end up, and it was just magic. Magic.
Okay, so the race was at Red Star?
Yes, it was.
Okay, and when you say 24 hours, we're talking 24 hours. You guys started at what time? Well,
look, it was scheduled for 3:14, but there was a medical issue right as the race should have started, so they had to get a chopper in from Joburg, I suppose. So it was delayed, I guess, just before 4 we started. But 24 hours from there on Sunday is when we end it. So it literally, the clock doesn't stop, but some cars do, like we did as well.
We'll get there. There. Let's talk about the car.
Yeah, so one of the things is that we spoke about earlier is with this particular race is a cost cap. So you couldn't take your Porsche.
Yeah.
So you entered a Beetle.
And I actually like that. You know what? I thought about it. Because I'm in love with the old 9 hours, I've been chasing the history of it, the John Loves and the Derby Khoses with the 550 Spider. And where do you get opportunity to race on a budget, a 24-hour race on a budget?
What's the budget?
So the budget was, and it's debatable if everyone stuck to it, but I mean, I'm happy that we did. The car needs to be less than 50,000 Rand.
Okay.
But then you can upgrade with all the safety equipment. So brakes are considered safety, so you can have anything. Guys had massive brakes on it. We just had what the car came with. Which Harry
Who
Lombard
uses brakes in a race in any case?
Yeah, well, it's overrated, yeah. Except at Red Star when you come down the straight and there's a 90-degree turn. But yeah, no, brakes are really... Well, the thing is, I've always believed you work around any problem. So if you don't have great brakes, you might be stronger in another... Yeah, you stop earlier. It's really, there is no issue, yeah.
So you have the cost cap. Any other rules? Is it similar to the other racing you've done where you've got a handicap system for
No, look, everyone...
time limit or anything?
No, look, everyone was equal, but just before, I guess, 2-3 weeks before the race, they came out with a brilliant rule that no one's allowed faster than 2.5 minutes. So that actually started equalizing everyone a little bit. Look, we were slower than that, but it gave us a chance because the fastest car could have done it 2:10 or something, 30 seconds a lap faster than us or so. But yeah, we tried to do 2:42s basically. That's what we felt would make the car go to 24 hours. The car can go faster. Thomas Faulkner, incredible driver, qualified for us, and he did a 2:36, and we had no practice time or anything, so he can improve on that time. But I mean, we qualified 19th out of I think 43 starters, which is above, well, in the top half of the order, and that's incredible. I mean, we had the oldest car there.
Now, interesting that you might not know about Red Star is that every 6 months they change the direction of the track.
Okay.
So
I absolutely love that track. It went clockwise this time.
Clockwise.
On the 27th, we're going counterclockwise with my Pursuit Racing, but my best results come from it, and I think it's because it's a challenge. It's
so many corners.
Well, it's a bike track, and it's got all these little twisty corners, and that's where your skill comes in. I mean, I get passed on the 3 straights every day, but because I'm down on power. But it doesn't bother me because I love going into the corners and know that I'm on that guy's behind.
Let's talk about the car quickly and the history around the car, because it's a special car.
I think so.
Yeah, so let's start with that. Maybe what year model and the history behind it.
Oh, there it is there.
Yeah, this was when you guys just got it.
Yeah, that was the day we actually picked it up. So the car's been racing for 30 years. I mean, Harry Lombard was the owner for 30 years of this car, and Fadi Redel, another older gentleman, helped him build up the car and maintain it. As you can see, it's won over 150 trophies there.
Sure.
So
Harry, insane.
Yeah, well, look, 30 years is a long time, but the car is so set up, so balanced and everything that it's possible to compete with it. I remember competing with it with my 928 that I raced, and it was one of my best races at Red Star. Happened to be at Red Star in the same direction, and we were like back and forth the whole time. And I mean, here I am in a V8 Porsche. That means something, I guess. And Harry is in front of me. I mean, I cannot pass him. I think I did eventually, but it doesn't matter. I mean, we had a good dice.
Yeah.
So Harry's had this car, and it's been, I mean, this has been his baby. And a year and a half ago, I mean, he had a little medical issue that where he cannot get an MSA license anymore. So it took him a year to work out what's the next step. And finally, he decided he's willing to sell the car to the right person. So he let me know. We nearly didn't buy the car, and then this event came up, and I was like, yeah, what's better? I mean, I can relive the late 50s and 60s 9 hours with a car that used to race there. I mean, because back then a 356 or a Beetle were basically the same thing. And I get an opportunity to do a 24-hour endurance race I mean, on a budget, if you had to go and do the 9-hour at Kyalami now, which is a professional event, I asked one of the teams, basically the last team there in their Lambo, it was 8 million rand, and then I asked one of the other guys that were approached to drive. It's 1 million rand to get a seat. I mean, that's money that I don't have.
Sure.
So
well, wait, I mean, Samola is just as ridiculous, eh?
Yeah, well,
I mean, there you're racing 1.9 Ks, never mind 9 hours.
Yeah, well, I've actually been invited with a 356. My problem is I'll have to push the car up there. It'll be faster because you need a powerful car up a hill. But I mean, I've been to the event many times. It is an excellent event, yeah.
All right, let's get to the race, because like we said, Fritz was there, so you guys got some awesome footage of the race. So let's get to that quickly. Bosie, wat se foto's wil jy weer sien, Bosie? Wat se foto's praat jy? Jy kan teruggaan.
Yeah. So, I mean, you bought the vehicle, but if my understanding is correct, you bought the vehicle and you had a very short time to prepare for the race, let alone enter it. So
lastminute.com.
Yeah, I mean, how did you overcome that?
Yeah, well, what happened is I opened up Facebook one evening and I saw Claire Vale posted that you can buy tickets to get their car after the race, and it goes to the Cheetah Foundation.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, I would like to own this car, and it was a Golf. And but then I read, but it's a 24-hour race. So I called a friend of mine that's doing or that did the race, and he said, yeah, but you cannot get in, it's full. So I sent an email to the organizer. He goes, you're in luck. Some of the Cape Town guys pulled out. You can get in still.
Wow.
So we had literally maybe 5 weeks or so. So then. And then I had to try and work out the financial side of it. So a very good friend of mine that doesn't want to be named, he sponsored the entry, which was 27,600 rand, which is but that includes your fuel and some tires as well.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
6 tires and unlimited fuel.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And you know what it costs to rent a track for 48 hours plus.
Fair enough.
So I feel it sounds excessive, but it was actually very reasonable.
What's happening there? Is this?
That's my right-hand man, Petrus, and the previous owner, Harry. And that was the day that we put the motor back in at my workshop. Because Harry, once I bought the Beetle, he decided to strip the bloody thing and go through it again because he wanted to make sure we're finishing it, So he put his heart into it. There's Werner Olke as well. Those two guys.
That's obviously not a.
That's not standard. That's not a standard fuel tank.
Came from the Second World War. No, listen. What that is we were getting allowed 60 liters at a time, no more than 60 liters.
Okay.
Now a Beetle tank's 40 liters. So I realized to utilize it properly, I need a bigger tank. But 60 liters doesn't work. You don't go to 0 and then put 60 liters in. Yeah. So I eyeballed it, built a tank, and it ended up 74 liters for a tank. But we never used it to its full potential. Here we are putting fuel in. Tyron Shuttleworth doing an incredible job, such a thankless job to do the fuel. I mean, he stayed up all night, and every time fuel had to happen, he was there.
I mean, the coordination to get this right in 5 weeks to do a 24-hour race is amazing. But I want to ask a couple of questions. So now you're in this 24-hour race, okay? How long do your brake pads last?
Yeah, that was all uncertain territory. I heard to use Ferrado because it lasts longer than the ATE brakes, and I went and bought 3 sets for the rears, and Harry had some second-hand old ones there. Because remember, we're on a budget here, and we're doing it for the right reasons. So we're not rebuilding stuff; we're just using what's there. Yeah. And amazingly, I think we could have done with 1 set there. We could have gone through with 1 set. The other thing was the tire use was also not that excessive. So we had 3 sets. But really could have done with less. But we did change brake pads, but the short answer is, I believe if you really had to, 1 set would have made it,
Now, obviously, aside from the general maintenance stuff that you have to do, you must have had some technical challenges during the race.
Yeah, well, the technical challenges happened before. The race actually started 5 weeks before, because this whole thing is a journey. Actually, the race is one thing, and the racing drivers, they might think they're important, but we're actually nothing. I mean, without the support from the crew and I had an incredible good team together.
Yeah.
The guys all did it like out of their hearts. No one got paid for it.
Sure.
Everyone was just friends doing it. None of them slept in 24 hours. We're supposed to be two groups, A and a B team, and they just stand on one team
Look
doing
at
it.
that vibe, eh? That's amazing.
Yeah, that's the other thing is I was lucky enough to start the race, and when I looked to the crowd side, the pit wall was packed with rows of people.
Yeah.
The pavilion at the top at Red Star was packed.
Fantastic.
I mean, and Red Star is an incredible track. They do so well. Everything is so clean. They do it so right. Honestly, this is my favorite track. You can say Kyalami is great and it is clean and stuff, but I mean for Red Star, these guys, you forever seeing somebody picking up papers and but it's a farmer's mentality. It's in the middle of farmland and they keep it clean and they keep it.
Okay, so challenges. We heard there was a gearbox issue or a gear issue. So what happened there?
Yeah, okay, well, to answer that, the morning of, the Friday morning practice, they opened at 9. So I said, just give me a little bit of time. I'll be there between 10 and 11. 11:30, I was pushing the car back to my workshop. It wasn't even at the track yet.
Really?
It wouldn't go into third gear. And then also the starter happened to go. So
We've got some pictures, I think, of you guys working on that. Carry on.
But in any case, so I called Harry quickly, and Harry said he'll find out. And because it's a racing car, they had made 2 inspection holes, knowing that you can adjust it. So he said, go in there, you'll find a little screw, try and adjust it. So I adjusted it, and third gear was there.
Okay.
So at some point, one of the drivers came in, said, I've got issues with third gear. Yeah, Jesse came in, he said, I've got issues with third gear. And I learned something yesterday about third gear, so I said, I'll go. I mean, and I'm under the car and I'm adjusting it, and there it works, a 10-minute fix.
And the rest of the team's going, holy shit, where did that come from?
Yeah, well, please don't tell them that I had advice the day before. But so, and then later in the race, that's where the real issues, started. So 3 o'clock in the morning, Stuart came in prior to that saying that fourth gear is not doing well, it's actually slipping going onto the back straight. And then Thomas did the stint after that, and he came in at 3, and he just said, listen, the gears are slipping.
Okay.
Third and fourth.
You're talking about these Oaks, all these other guys. I'm assuming that they were your driving partners. How many drivers did you guys have?
We were 4 drivers. They happened to be very accomplished drivers, all of them.
Was it a time, was it certain amount of laps, or was it timed sessions for you guys?
Look, you can decide. A driver's not allowed doing more than 14 hours at the event.
Okay.
But we split it quite fairly. So what happened at 3?
There's the drivers.
Yes, yeah.
So do a little intro. Who
Jesse's on the right-hand side looking at the screen. Then it's Thomas Faulkner. Then it's myself looking very serious there. Stuart Grant, also a huge classic enthusiast. But all of them incredible drivers. I mean, there's not one of them that cannot drive. I mean, they are so smooth and so accomplished.
So then we're back at 3 o'clock. Is that 3 o'clock in the morning? Eh?
Yeah,
what's happening
so 3 o'clock in the morning, we realized there's an issue and it's slipping. And I noticed that there were drops of oil, but normally it's the flywheel oil seal on the motor. And what I realized is make good decisions, but don't hesitate. So I decided to pull the motor. I mean, it's a big decision to make, but I knew it's not that difficult, and we've done it before. My friend Vanna.
How long does that take, by the way?
Well, look, Vanna Olker's done it in 9 minutes and 11 seconds before. But
that's how long it takes finally to go to the toilet.
Yep, and that was out and in and reversing 5 meters, but that was a competition.
Incredible.
But look, a normal engine pull can happen in 15 minutes to 30 minutes, depending on whether you're prepared or not. But so long story short, pulled the motor. It was wet in there. So it happened to be a little seal on the shaft on the gearbox there. Something that no one could predict, and something that we didn't have there. Yeah. So the 2 Euros came out 3:45 in the morning. My dad.
So surely a catastrophic engine pull's probably the end of the race then?
No, not in my eyes.
Really?
No, man, this is normal stuff. What do you mean? We're driving a car that's like 50 plus years old or whatever. So Werner Alke and my dad decided 3:45 in the morning to drive back all the way to Swartkorp's area to get a seal at Werner's house, because he's got everything there. But the funny thing is, so 3:45 they go and they see the blue lights on the bridge, so they stop for 10 minutes there until 4 o'clock comes, and then they're off again on a notoriously dangerous road, the Dalmas Road. I mean, potholes and shit.
And it's been redone as well.
Yeah, well, and it's a sinkhole, so you have to take a detour. But in any case, they get there, they come back, they're there about 5 minutes after 6, they're there, and now we're putting the motor to back, and I think somewhere around 7:30 we're back on track, and we decide just to do what we can. I mean, now the car is ready. So, I mean, but this car was so well built, over 30 years developed, so really, if it wasn't for that issue, there was no issue.
So that's the first start after you've now put the seal in and put the motor back in, and off you go. Just out of interest, now, what position were you lying in at that point?
Look, I think we came in at 3 o'clock around 17th, and I think we went out in 33rd position out of, I don't know how many people were left in the race. Only about 5 broke. That's one thing that surprised me.
Very interesting.
Because I said if we finish this race, we'll have a top 10, because only 10 cars will finish. And they proved me wrong. Everyone just kept going. But so we started in around 33rd position, I think, what we started at. But we started knocking one after the other off there, and in the end we beat much faster cars.
Crazy. I see you got Stigworks telemetry.
Yes,
well.
Adrian.
Awesome,
I mean, Adrian was so good to us. He came on board and helped us. I found it fascinating how to improve my time. So Adrian would say, look, Jesse goes in 10 kilometers faster an hour into this corner, but actually you go faster through it, so you end up on the other side faster again. And then Jesse would have a look how he can improve, and then I would have a look at how Thomas is driven, or whatever, and he works it out. He can tell you when you breathe wrong, basically. I mean, he knows how many G's you're pulling, when you're braking, how you accelerate. Your lines can allay each other. He can tell you what's the better line. I mean, it's incredible.
Amazing.
But now the thing with 24-hour racing and endurance racing is you've got daytime driving
and then
you've got nighttime driving. Now, I've done a few nighttime races.
Yes.
And I've had lights that sucked. And I've also been in a situation where my alternator packed up and I had no lights for a couple of laps. So, I mean, in a 24-hour race, you've got a lot of cars that are obviously quicker than you. The track is not illuminated, so you're relying purely on those lights. Did you guys do anything different with the lighting?
Yeah, we had issues. Jesse was very uncomfortable with the lights, so he needed new spotlights. So at some point...
So you drove to Joburg to get the spotlights?
No, that I don't know. I don't know how that happened. Somehow we had spotlights, LED spotlights given to us.
Okay.
And Almiro...
Oh, there you go. Look at that. Is that then being fitted there?
Yeah, so you see Almiro...
So there's a Ford Ranger somewhere driving around that parked at Red Star that doesn't have spotlights on.
Yeah, somebody's losing out there. Yeah. But, I mean, Almiro... he helped us with the electrical stuff, and he did an incredible job.
Cool.
Within minutes, he sorted it out, but we did have a few issues with fuses going and things not going our way there. In hindsight, it should not have been done in the race, but also I was pushing the car to my workshop at 11:30 the day before, so we had no time testing. Literally, getting to Red Star was the first time that we knew whether this car was going to make it or not. There was so many questions, but I always believe in the Beatles, so I'm never worried.
At the end of the day, this whole thing is about that experience and that story that you can tell afterwards. It's not about winning or whatever the case is.
To me, the story started 5 weeks earlier.
Love it. It's
the journey. Look, no one or very few people are going to go and look at the results afterwards, and I don't mind whatever they think of the results. We did it in the spirit of the event, and we also enjoyed it. I mean, that's all that counts. I'm here talking about experiences. Had I won the event without any issues, you would have had a 5-minute interview.
Yeah.
I mean,
how was the race? It was great. I won. Next.
Look, it gets boring if you just have no issues. Yeah.
So we don't want to cut you short. We really could
I think
talk
we can
forever.
do an hour show just doing
Yeah.
this, but unfortunately we have some other segments that we have to get to. So I
No,
think what
no
we're going to
problem.
do is let's go to the review of the Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross. Yes, I got that right.
You got that right? It's a bit of a mouthful.
So let's go and have a look at that review, and we'll be back with Werner just now. So Peter, let's welcome the people to this review. So let's talk automotive review, the Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross.
And this is a vehicle that we featured
In the news not too long ago.
not too long ago, and it looked fantastic in the photograph, so it was very interesting to see it in the flesh.
Agreed. I like the edgy design. So my first impression of this car, from the front, from the side, from the rear, it's very edgy, very different looking design. Aggressive.
That's one of the features I like about it. The lights are completely different. I mean, these indicators have got to be the longest front indicators I've ever seen on a car. So everything about it is completely different to anything else that's available. So that's one of the cool features, I think.
Let's go for a walk around. Maybe let's start at the front. Like you said, this is your daytime running lights and also your indicators.
Yep.
Very, very good looking. That must be a proper projector beam there.
Yep.
I like this Mitsubishi-ish design at the front. This nose looks very...
Well, you can see the DNA of
Yes.
Mitsubishi coming through. So very similar to what's on the Pajero Sport,
Yeah.
as well as the pickups.
We've got park distance control at the front. A very nice looking diamond cut alloy wheel. I still like this line. It's a bit longer than the previous Eclipse, sorry. So all in all, I really like what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and if we go to the rear as well, you can see the trend continues. There's really nothing like it, if you
Yeah.
have a look at this.
So this is probably, again, one of the longest brake lights and headlights, rear headlights that's out there at the moment.
For sure.
Let's open up the boot.
Yep.
This is quite interesting because, interestingly enough, this car in South Africa comes with a full-size mag and tyre.
And you can see they've had to make a plan because there's no wheel well here anymore.
Correct.
Because most cars overseas don't have a full-size spare wheel anymore.
Yeah.
So you can see that they've had to obviously make a plan for South Africa. It's a little bit odd to see it raised like this.
So they've sacrificed a little bit of space in this boot.
Yeah.
And it's not a huge boot if you look at the way that this rear sort of slopes down.
almost like a fastback. Kind
Yeah.
of.
So there's definitely a bit of sacrifice in the boot, but like you said, and we've said before, I would definitely rather have the full-size spare in South Africa than a Mari biscuit or a puncture repair kit.
And at least they've made an attempt to build a decent cover. I have had experience of other manufacturers where they've simply plonked the full-size spare with a cargo net on the back. So at least they've given it a shot.
All right, are we going to do a quick funny fit before we get into the business?
Yeah, let's do that.
Sure, Pete. So getting into the back of this, for a crossover small SUV, is it a small SUV? Yes, it's
probably
mid-size.
Yeah.
This is a lot of space. I'm actually very surprised. There's a lot of headroom.
And I think that's one of the features with the vehicle is that from a price positioning point of view, it actually competes against much smaller vehicles. So you're getting a lot of bang for your buck.
You're getting a little bit more. Okay, I have to mention that there is a power socket here at the back, but unfortunately that's it. There's no USB ports or anything like that. But all in all, I'm happy. Good funny fit.
Good funny fit.
All right, Pete, so sitting in the driver position here, my first impression is actually, considering that this is a mass-produced car, there's a lot of attention to detail, nice leather steering wheel, all the looks and feels, all the bells and whistles that I would expect. I'm very, very happy. I
mean, you're right. There's everything you've got. My favorite, the seat heaters. You've got your 2 USB charging ports over there. You've got an automatic air conditioning system, which is important. It's not just a manual system.
This new infotainment system is new on this model. I think a nice upgrade. Cruise control, all the bells and whistles that I want. Paddle shift, which was nice.
So what's interesting with this paddle shift is it's not fixed to the steering wheel, it's fixed to the steering column. And I always think that from a safety point of view, or not safety point of view, but just from an awareness point of view, in terms of understanding exactly where your up and down pedal is, it's always much better to have it fixed. And that's, by the way, how the rally cars have it done.
The last thing that I want to talk about before we go for a drive is the seats. Wow.
Yeah, very comfortable.
Nice and comfortable, nice looking.
Was a surprise for me. Yeah. So they don't look cheap and nasty by any stretch of the imagination. They're nice and bulky and very, very comfortable.
Okay, before we go for the drive, let's just talk about the engine. This is a 1.5 litre turbo, and it is a CVT automatic or CVT gearbox.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how the CVT drives. I think you're going to be in for a nice surprise.
All right. I think let's stop talking. Let's go for a drive. All right, Pete. So it's drive time. This time, at least I get a chance to drive a car. So the Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross GLS.
1.5 litre turbo.
Yeah.
And we've just had a look at this turbo, and very small turbo. So it's clearly just to compensate for the multi-valves and the fact that it's a small displacement motor. So it's not a turbo that's designed to make the car go faster.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Pete, what was your first impression when you got into this car?
Yeah, I like what I see. I think there's a lot of, again, standard execution. There's an automatic climate control or air conditioner.
Yeah.
It's got an 8-inch touchscreen, nice controls on the steering wheel, so multi-function steering wheel. The seats for me are fantastically comfortable, and they're just really, I feel I'm in a bit of a cushion here on the seat, so very comfortable.
The comfort is amazing. Power delivery here for me is surprising. It's quite nippy, and one thing that we again have to speak to is the CVT gearbox here, because this is probably one of the better CVT gearboxes I've had in a car in a very long time.
And you would hardly know that it's a CVT gearbox unless we, said to you. I bet you if we hadn't have said to you that it's a CVT, you wouldn't have noticed. So it is an awesome CVT gearbox.
Yeah. Let's talk about where this car fits in, if you don't mind. Let's just have the discussion. Who do you think is going to buy this car?
So
is it a family car? Is it a mommy car?
I think it's an entry level SUV stroke family vehicle. So somebody that's not going to see themselves in a Pajero, although Pajero is finished now, but that size of vehicle, because it is very spacious inside.
Yeah.
So I think it's somebody that's got aspirations to purchasing a full blown SUV that wants the reliability of a Mitsubishi.
Yeah. That's an interesting point that you bring up, and one that I want to touch on quickly. If we look at Mitsubishi again, sales volumes across the world versus South Africa, there's a huge difference. In South Africa, again, low volumes. Why would you say that is? Because it's a reliable Japanese brand.
It's an incredibly reliable vehicle. I mean, I always tell people that when Mitsubishi was part of Daimler, the Mitsubishi products were our lowest cost per chassis warranty vehicles.
Yeah.
So they've always been over-engineered, very reliable. I think the simple reason why Mitsubishi's volume doesn't do it justice is, I'm afraid, on its parts pricing.
Okay.
And the parts pricing on a basket of parts is very, very expensive. And I don't know if that's because they are so reliable.
Sure.
But unfortunately, that does hurt it a bit.
Don't you think that because it's a imported vehicle, completely 100% imported, do you think that price might have something to do with it as well? Do you know
It
the
could
price
well
of the
be.
car is a little bit on the expensive side comparing to other vehicles in this class?
Well, could well be. I mean, they don't have the benefit of export credits, so that could potentially be it.
Okay, let's talk about what we see here quickly. If you don't mind, first I want to talk about this lacquer heads-up display. I always enjoy a heads-up display because I always feel like I'm flying a jet or something.
And I know that one, people might say it's old tech because it's got a screen that flaps up. I prefer that because I know I'm in focus straight away.
Correct.
Whereas the others sometimes are out of focus. I don't even know they're there.
Yeah. And this is adjustable, so I saw there's a little button here that you can move that up and down a little bit, so you can adjust that. Plus, obviously, adjusting your seat and getting you into that position. This one, compared to others, 100%. I'm very happy with that. Pete, I think it's fair to say that surprised both of us a little bit.
It did. And how did you enjoy the CVT gearbox?
Yeah, like I said when we were driving, I think it's probably one of the best CVT gearboxes I've driven in my life. So yeah, no, I'm very impressed. Peter, considering what this car competes against, in that segment, I think that this is good value for money.
Yeah, I mean, it comes in at just a sniff under 500,000 Rand.
Correct. So I think it's really good value for money. I think it does everything that it's supposed to do. I really can't say anything bad. So I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10.
8.5 out of 10. Okay, well, just to be different, I'm going to give it an 8. I do think it performs exceptionally well in its segment, considering that there are much smaller cars that are competing at the same price. So kudos to Mitsubishi on that. The only reason why I'm not giving it a perfect 10 out of 10 or a high 9 is maybe because of what we spoke about in terms of parts pricing, which I think dents the model a little bit.
Awesome. Would you buy one?
I'm a huge Mitsubishi fan, so yes. If I was in this market where I needed a medium-sized SUV, no doubt.
Yeah. It's getting difficult because my collection is just growing and growing and growing because I can't see a reason why I wouldn't want this car. Yeah. So just another one that I need to buy. But thanks for joining us on this review of the Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross, and we'll see you guys again next week.
Cheers, everyone.
Well, looking at that now, I actually feel bad because I actually think that car's worth a bit of a higher score.
I agree with you, actually. I'm looking at this going, hang on a second, this looks pretty good. Yeah. But maybe that's going to be its success factor because it is not instantaneously attractive. There's some awkwardness about it, but that makes it evergreen for a long time. I mean, just from a few...
Werner wouldn't like it because it's not air-cooled.
My knowledge stopped in 1973, so I'm the wrong person to ask.
All right, so Andre Boyson has joined us. Thank you very much, Andre, for joining us. And so I think the main thing, let's just finish the story quickly. Yeah. Okay, because we've left it on a little bit of a cliffhanger. Yeah. So the question is, did you guys eventually finish?
We did, and I never doubted it. But yeah, we had some issues even at the end. Thomas climbed in for the last 2-hour stint, and half an hour into his stint, an hour and a half before the end of the race, he comes up to the last few turns, which is at the end of the back straight, and the next moment he over-revs the car.
Oh goodness.
And a spring breaks on the carburetor linkage. No. So the car, and the ref counter, showed 11,000 RPMs.
Wow.
But I don't think it's possible. But let's just say it got over-revved. The car comes in, it sounds like a bucket full of loose nuts in there. It sounds terrible. And that's where I made my only and first mistake, is I told Werner Alke, my friend that's worked on Beetles for 70 years or 60 plus years, because he wants to look at the tappets. He wants to quickly open the tappet, and I was like, the engine's gone. It doesn't help you looking at it. Yeah. We just need to keep going. And eventually we decided, okay, well, let's park the car and just do the final lap with the rest of the guys. So I said, okay, Werner, you can have a look at the tappets, And there he goes, and he goes to the left side, opens it up, and the first nut he goes to is loose on the tappet. I mean, it's two unrelated issues.
Yeah.
He fastens the nut. The next moment, this thing purrs like a sewing machine. So Harry built a bulletproof motor.
Amazing.
So we decided to down tune it in any case. We took some of the throttle away for Thomas there. So he was doing 3-minute laps. But there was really, in hindsight, very little wrong, even over revving the engine. And I was looking because there was a 944 turbo, which I feel was more than the budget. So I would love to have beaten them. And I was looking and I was like, yeah, we're going to beat them by 1 lap if we keep this pace.
Wow.
But there were penalties for them in any case. So we did beat them. So we finished the race and the engine sounds healthy to the point where I got advised not to even open the motor for next year. Yeah,
amazing.
So,
I think we've got some footage of you guys finishing. If we can maybe put that up. And while we're looking at this, guys, we're chatting to Werner Hutzenberg. They've just last week. It was last weekend, eh?
Yes, yeah.
Last weekend competed at this 24-hour endurance race. So if you guys have any questions or comments, he's going to be with us for a while. After this, because we're going to get to game time. I'm looking forward to this.
Me too. Can't wait.
And you guys can also play along. You know, if you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, wherever you are, in the comments below, you can join us for game time. It's a guessing game. You need to guess what car it is. So let's talk about this. Is this the final lap?
Well, he's just gone over the start-finish line, checkered flag. I mean, Thomas was such a team player in the end there. He's such a fast driver.
What's the cars on trailers there? What's that?
Man,
what's happening there?
Mark put up such an incredible event. There were many special touches, but this to me was the number one touch that he did. They decided as organizers that everyone should finish the race.
Wow.
So they said, put your car in a trailer and do the last lap with us, and then you can be a finisher as well.
That is stunning.
And that's the lemon spirit. I mean, and that's why I feel like doing it in a lemon is the correct thing to do. I mean, the guys that won, it means nothing to me. It's the guys that went through the hardships and stuff. So here are true enthusiasts with their cars in a trailer, finishing the race on a trailer because of Mark's vision, basically.
Just look at the guys on this trailer here. Just look at the guys on the trailer here.
I mean, that must have actually made up a hell of a lot for the disappointment of not finishing due to a mechanical issue, and then you get told, stick your car on a trailer.
Well, let me tell you that we've been talking to you, and in that little break we had a little bit of a discussion, and I think we'll be there next year.
Well, you'll be dumb not to do it. Honestly, if you're a car enthusiast, and especially a racing enthusiast, and you stay up for Le Mans every year, it's a no-brainer. I mean, it really is affordable, even if you're not a big earner, and the amount of stories and fun. I mean, you will tick it off as a bucket list experience. It's incredible, and they did such a good job.
So very uniquely to this whole event that is quite unique anyway, you guys streamed this entire 24-hour race. It was a live stream, so people who followed your team could watch. And who was behind all of that?
Yeah, look, I'm very privileged to have a support team around me, whether it's working on the motor or live streaming. So Requin International and one of your guys here, Fritz, kindly borrowed the Obi van there, which I slept in on Friday night, where I forgot my sleeping bag in the cold, in the cold Dalmas weather. But yeah, I mean, they came on board and were so excited. And next year they've got bigger plans to do more of it. Yeah,
that stream and the telemetry on the car and 4-screen split looks like flipping F1, man.
Yeah. Well, look, when you were not at the you couldn't just go to the event. First of all, you had to buy tickets beforehand and know somebody at the event. Because of COVID, everything is a bit stricter.
Sure.
So,
except if you're at a political rally, then it's
well, I guess. But the thing is, for my family and friends, and also for all the Beetle owners out there, I had so many comments of thank you for flying the flag. You had these Beetle owners that believe in their cars, and for them to follow it, but they're not able to go to the actual event was, I mean, I'm so thankful that I had these guys behind me. They live streamed it. They looked after us in that way. Yeah.
Werner, I'm gonna maybe end off because it's game time.
You're welcome. Welcome to.
So you kept saying that you're blessed to have this. Let me tell you something. I think it's because you're an awesome guy, and I think that attracts a lot of the positivity that comes with that. And we've had a fantastic time with you tonight. You've inspired us, and we definitely going to be entering the race next year.
Yeah,
I think.
I agree.
I really hope to see you there in the car.
We can actually cancel the hill climb thing.
No, we're going to do both.
What?
Ambition.
Well, if you cannot do both, just realize you can have
24 hours
25 hours of fun,
1.9,
or you can have less than a minute of fun going up that hill. Yeah, so
sold.
All right, the fun's not ending now.
Yeah, this is the part where I get disappointed. So I'm
we are
preparing
running
myself.
over time. Plenty, but
Who
let's
cares?
just carry on.
you being a car guy, you should be good at this game.
All right, guys, you guys at home watching on YouTube and on Facebook, please, you guys now need to play along. All right.
You got my WhatsApp
we are
number,
going
boys.
to show you a partial picture of a car. All right, guys, this is how it works. We're going to show you a partial picture of a car on the screen. You have to guess. Shout your name if you recognize the car, and then I'll come to you. Best out of 7 wins. Very easy. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is game time. All right, guys, you know the rules, and I'm looking for participation from you guys online. So let's get to the first one.
Peter.
There's no way.
There is a way, because that is a...
Maybe you're looking at my notes.
No, I'm not, I swear. Isn't that a Ferrari what is it, a P50?
I can help you,
Yeah?
but do I get the point?
I'll decide.
Ferrari,
Is
because
it
half
a
a point
Ferrari?
for
What
Ferrari.
is it?
Yeah, half a
Ferrari?
point. Is it a 312?
Yes, it is absolutely. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give Werner a full point for that.
Oh, yes, no, I wouldn't have done that.
I'm going to give.
I only guessed it was a Ferrari because it was red.
I'll give you half a point, you know?
The badge in the front didn't give it away, did it?
Okay, let me see if anybody's.
You got to give me a bonus point for
I'm
some
giving you
bullseye.
half a point. Okay. So it's 1-1 Werner. It's going the way it's supposed to go. Here is the second one. Ooh, this is difficult.
Peter, Ford GT40.
Oh, you fast,
Peter,
you
man.
fast. But
No, just because of that bubble in the roof.
But an iconic car, you can. This is such an iconic.
And I
car,
gave you guys the iconic piece to look at as well. Okay, Peter, I'll give you that, but I'm going to give Werner half a point just because he's sitting there. Okay, here comes the third
There
one.
must be losers.
Peter, that is a
no way.
Porsche.
No.
No. Okay.
If you can just tell
that
me
must
what
be a Jaguar.
it is. A Jaguar.
Yes, you're right. Okay, because the silk cut, I should have seen that.
Well done, Werner.
Yeah.
That is a Jag. And I actually left a little piece of the logo in so that you can see that.
I'm an arsehole.
So that is a XJR Jaguar. Okay, so by now you guys understand.
Did you see that he's driving with no gloves?
What?
Yeah.
Go back. Show us.
Fritz, go back there. He's got no gloves on.
Maybe they're testing. Maybe it wasn't part of a race.
Okay, interesting.
Well, it was just for the photo shoot.
Okay,
you know?
cool. I still would have put gloves on just to be cool.
We actually arranged this photo shoot for game time, and that driver just took it around the track for us. Okay, so let me get to this. Is 2.5 to 1.5. Okay, well done. Nobody's playing along. I don't know. They say
I
that
need
this-
the help.
They
I
say
need
it's
the help.
difficult. Okay, number 4. There's no way that maybe any of you guys will get this. This is number
Okay.
4.
Vanner.
There, what?
That looks like a Lola to me.
A Lola. You are absolutely correct, Werner. I'm going to give you 2 points for that. Do you know which one that is?
Man, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, don't worry about that. I'm not very strict about rules like this. That's a T70
Not when
Mark
Peter's
III.
around.
Have you ever seen that car? A Lola.
Nope.
Okay.
I might have seen it, but I
so
didn't recognize it.
4.5 at the moment to 1.5. Here comes number 5.
Vanner.
Werner. What is that?
Mazda.
How do you know? Because it says Mazda on the side. Peter, you must focus, my boy. I didn't make this too difficult, okay?
That's why I said it so slow. I wanted to give him a chance to get in there. Yeah.
I'm busy looking at the lights and the diffuser on the front, and there it is. It says
Well
Mazda.
done. Well done.
I mean, I actually deserve to lose that one.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so the points at this 3, 5.5 to 1.5 at the moment.
Okay.
Okay, and we've got 2 to go. So here's number 6.
Peter,
Yes.
that is a Mercedes-Benz.
Absolutely. I'm going to give
It's a
you.
Gullwing.
Yes,
No, it's
yeah,
not.
not Gullwing, but
So I'm gonna. I
Come
wanted
on,
to
Mercedes-Benz.
I wanted to give you a point. Now I'm gonna have to take it
you
away.
must just keep quiet.
I
So
talked my way out of that deal. Eh?
It's a pretty
show
car.
them a little bit more of the car. Let's see if they can show you a little bit more of this car. You're right on Mercedes. I'm gonna give you half a point so far.
Okay.
A little bit to the top. A little bit more to the top. Look at that.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean it's obviously one of the Grand Prix cars.
A
but I don't know which one.
300 SLR.
Okay.
Okay, let me give you a point, Peter. It's not like
Thank
you're gonna
It's
win.
probably the best
It's not
looking
going to make
car.
a difference in any case.
Probably the best looking car out of a lot of them. But
Mudley
it's because
says you
it's
guys. Mudley says you guys are too quicks. You're not giving them. You're not giving them enough time. Do you know
What year is that? If I'd have to guess, I'd say probably 58, 59.
I think
round
it
about
was
there.
about 50s, yeah. Okay, so Nadia could also read because she said it was a Mazda.
No. Nadia got that right because she's married to this man and he gave her all the answers.
the answers beforehand.
Okay, so let's make it interesting. Let's make this interesting.
20
at the
point
moment,
bonus
at
point
the
for the
moment
last
it's 3, 4, 5.5, 5.5 to 2.5.
Okay. So
Okay.
you're putting 5 points on this one.
I'll give you guys 5 points for the last one. Okay. So 5 points for the last one. All right, here we go, and here is the last one. Peter! No. No. You cannot shout your name and then take time. Okay, so you're disqualified. What is that, Vander?
What do you mean?
That can only be the only car that I really know. A Porsche.
Yes.
You were always going to lose, I guess.
Yes.
It must be a 956, which
Absolutely
we
correct.
happen to have in South Africa.
That is absolutely.
That's why I was shouting my name out.
Peter, you
I wasn't just shouting it out because I was enjoying myself.
Shit. I'm telling you now, you're talking shit. Okay, so it's 10.5 to 2.5. Well done.
His wife wasn't the only one with the answers, it seems like.
Right, that brings us to the end. Martin said that was a Porsche. Yes, Martin, well done. Well done. All right, guys, that brings us to the end of game time, and we are seriously over time tonight. But we need to talk about how things work. And in tonight's segment on how things work, we are talking about
The cooling system on your car and
the
how it
cooling
works.
system on your car and how that works. And this is proudly brought to you by Suzuki Auto South Africa.
Welcome to this week's episode of How Things Work, and in today's segment I'm going to be taking you through the cooling system on our vehicles. So summer is here, thank goodness, and temperatures are definitely rising, but it's during the summer months that we typically see a dramatic spike in cars suffering from overheating. So what can we do to ensure that our cars don't overheat, and how is the temperature of the engine actually regulated? And why does an engine get so hot in the first place? So merely driving our cars at a moderate speed requires thousands of controlled explosions per minute, which result in the combustion chambers reaching staggering temperatures of up to 2,500 degrees centigrade. So you can imagine cooling the areas around the combustion chamber becomes critical in order for the engine not to fail. So cooling systems that we find in our cars and bikes today have not really changed much in function from what we had over 100 years ago, except that they are very, very reliable and very accurate. And we need them to be accurate because not only do we require the cooling system to remove heat from the engine, but also to retain constant engine temperatures regardless of the external temperatures and the loads that we apply to the engine. So too low and the engine runs inefficiently, which produces more emissions, and too high and we run the risk of engine damage. Now, getting to the cooling systems themselves, we have two main types, liquid and air-cooled. And while air-cooled engines are mainly found on older cars, we still have some of them on current motorbikes. So looking at water-cooled engines, we have the following basic items: So firstly, we have passages inside the engine block and heads. We have a water pump to circulate the coolant through those passages, and we have a thermostat to control the temperature of the coolant. We also have a radiator to cool the coolant, a radiator cap to control the pressure in the system, and interconnecting hoses to transfer the coolant from the engine to the radiator, and also the car's heater system, where hot coolant is used to warm up the vehicle's interior. So it has two purposes. But in basic terms, a cooling system works by sending a liquid coolant through the passages in the engine block and the head, or heads if it's a V configuration. And now, as the coolant flows through these passages, it picks up heat from the engine, and the heated fluid then makes its way through rubber hoses to the radiator, which is usually in front of the car. And as it flows through the thin tubes in the radiator, the hot liquid is cooled by the airstream entering the engine compartment from the grille in front of the car. And once the fluid is cooled, it returns to the engine to absorb more heat. So it is actually called a heat exchanger. A very important component in all of this is the water pump, which has the job of keeping the fluid moving through the system of plumbing and hidden passages. Now, when I say liquid, we naturally think about water. And although water is a major part of the cooling system, another critical liquid is, of course, antifreeze. And the combination of antifreeze and water is usually in a ratio of about 1:1 and is technically called a coolant. And the function of the antifreeze is threefold. Firstly, it needs to, as the name suggests, prevent the coolant from freezing, which is not really a challenge in South Africa. However, it is also there to increase the boiling point of the coolant. And lastly, it also serves as a rust inhibitor. So if you ever have to top up your water bottle, make sure that you also replenish the antifreeze to maintain the ratio and keep the coolant effective against freezing and boiling. And by the way, it's also not a good idea to have purely antifreeze in the system, as it'll cause a boil-over effect. Now, I spoke earlier about how the cooling system maintains a specific engine temperature. And the component that regulates this is called the thermostat. Now, the thermostat is simply a valve that measures the temperature of the coolant, and if it's hot enough, opens to allow the coolant to flow through the radiator. If the coolant is not hot enough, the flow to the radiator is blocked, and the fluid is directed back to a bypass system that allows the coolant to return to the engine. Now, amazingly, the heart of the thermostat is a sealed copper cup that contains wax and a material or metal pellet. As the thermostat heats up, the hot wax expands, pushing the piston up against the spring pressure to open the valve and allow coolant to circulate. So pretty simple, eh? But don't be tempted to remove the thermostat. I come across a lot of people that do this for various reasons. Now, not only will the wild fluctuations in temperature cause fatigue between the block and the cylinder head and potential damage to the head gasket, but it can also cause the engine to overheat, as the coolant is now flowing way too fast for the effective heat exchange to occur through the radiator, and you can now overheat the engine. Now, we typically regulate the engine temperature at around 90 degrees centigrade, which is sailing pretty close to the boiling point of water if the engine heats up additionally when it's under load. And in fact, I've seen engine temperatures exceed 100 degrees by some margin. So how come the fluid does not boil away? Well, firstly, the antifreeze component of the coolant increases the boiling point. But more interestingly, is the cooling system is a sealed closed circuit, which means the pressure of the system increases. And a very clever physicist, Robert Boyle, discovered that the higher the pressure in a closed system, the higher the boiling point, and vice versa. So for example, at very low pressure, we can boil water at room temperature. Therefore, the high pressure associated with our cooling system means we can have high coolant temperatures without it reaching a boiling point. So it's very important that you keep an eye out for any potential leaks in the cooling system, which will cause the pressure to revert back to atmospheric pressure and therefore allow the coolant to boil away at normal operating temperatures of the engine. The radiator hoses and heater hoses are easily inspected by just opening up the bonnet and looking in. You want to be sure that the hoses have no cracking or splitting and that there is no bulging or swelling at the hose ends. And if there's any sign of problems, the hoses should be replaced with original parts. Never use a universal hose unless it's an emergency and a proper molded hose is not available. You also need to have an eagle eye on your temperature gauge, because by the time you notice the engine temperature increasing, the coolant has probably already boiled away and you have very, very little time to slow down and turn off the engine before you cause damage. Another component that can cause problems if it fails is the radiator cap. Now, the radiator cap is designed to maintain pressure in the cooling system at certain maximum pressure. If the cooling system exceeds that pressure, a valve in the cap opens to bleed the excessive pressure into the reserve tank. And once the engine is cooled off, a negative pressure begins to develop in the cooling system. But when this happens, a second valve in the cap allows the coolant to be siphoned back into the radiator from the reserve tank. If the cap fails though, the engine can easily overheat. But a simple pressure test of the radiator cap is a quick way to tell if the cap is doing its job. Now lastly, when the car is moving, there is a flow of air through the radiator. But if you've stopped at a robot, for example, this flow obviously stops as well, and we therefore have radiator fans which switch on to maintain some degree of airflow through the radiator. Now these fans work very hard as they also provide a constant airflow for the air conditioning system. So if you do notice that your engine temperature increases when you stop, a quick test is to switch on the air conditioner. And if the fans switch on, then it's likely just a temperature sensor that's failed. But if the fans don't switch on when you turn on the air conditioner, it's probably a bit more serious and could mean you have to replace the fan motors themselves. So there you have it, a crash course in the basics of the cooling system. I hope you enjoyed some of the insights into how the system works, and we look forward to seeing you on future episodes of How Things Work.
Thank you so much, Mr. Professor Piro Viljoen. That was amazing. And thank you so much to Suzuki Auto South Africa for bringing us that wisdom.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, are you guys ready to have some fun? Let's have a laugh.
Because I need to obviously
Yeah, I thought we did.
All right, so let's have some fun time. Okay, so some memes for you guys tonight. Some entertaining stuff going around on the internet this week. So
are we keeping it clean?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see what Fritz. I hope Fritz. Okay, so here's looks romantic until she asks why the rear pegs were down. So for all my biker friends would understand what this means.
Well, for those that even if you're not a biker friend, if you've got mascara in the cubbyhole, you're in caca as well.
All right, yeah, let's see what the next one brings. Oh, a little bit of a copycat thing happening right here.
Wow. That's incredible. Very close, eh?
So, I don't know what Ford that is, though.
Is that not the new Ranger?
You think it's a new Ranger? It's very funny.
Looks like a Bucky.
Everything's about cost these days.
All right, and then let's have a look at the last one. Here's my mechanic friends when the wheel is stuck on the car.
You know, that's such a delightful photograph for me because I cannot stand football.
Did you guys struggle with the wheels on the 24-hour race to take off the nuts?
No, we didn't struggle with the wheels. Actually, Vanna Olke made these special pins that we can go over with because on a Beetle it's bolts and not nuts, so it's such a pain. Yeah, but no struggles. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys, that brings us to an absolutely awesome show. Thank you so much, and unfortunately, sorry for the guys that we're 20 minutes over.
This is a record.
Yeah, a record show. All right, guys, it was amazing. It was good company, and that's why we had such a lucky time. Thank you very much for joining us, Werner.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate
it.
it.
We're going to see you at the races.
Yeah, I would love to see you pit next to me.
And I think we need to go past the workshop as well and go check some of the special stuff there, eh? Absolutely. Thanks, guys. We'll see you guys again next week, same time, same place. Have a wonderful time. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.